Hello, and welcome back to our little podcast of sensory journaling experiences. All right, for this episode, we're going to talk about chemical senses. So, the chemical senses are taste and smell, and during class, we're going to be spending a lot of time talking about exactly how it is that we detect chemicals with these senses, but the main idea is that it's literally molecules of the environment that are coming and touching receptors in our bodies, and then we're detecting these different kinds of molecules, and that's what's giving us these particular sensations that we have, which is really interesting if you think about it. So for this journaling activity, I'm going to ask you to do something. You're going to have to do a little bit of preparation. Okay, so in order to prepare, what you'll need to do is find something that can be smelled or tasted. All right, so some objects, and also that you can safely either warm up and or cool down. All right, and that you could have. Ideally, it would be useful to have something you can divide into two pieces. Okay, so the idea here is to have both a warm version and a cold version of the same thing, and then have them right next to each other so you can do a comparison head to head on the chemical sensations that you can get from them, which is either smelling them or tasting them. So a simple option would be food. You could get some kind of food out of the refrigerator, and you could heat some of it in the microwave and keep some of it cold from the refrigerator. Or maybe this is silly, but a different idea, you could take a pair of your shoes and you could put one of them outside in the snow and let it cool off, and have the other one sit by the warm air vent and be warm, and then put them next to each other. So I invite you to get creative with the objects that you do your smell and or taste test with, just as long as you don't set anything on fire, of course. All right, so if you need to pause the video to go ahead and do that, feel free at any time. Once you've done the preliminary task of getting a cold version and a warm version of the same thing, what I'd like for you to do is to give yourself some time to really smell it and or taste both of these things in comparison to each other. Obviously, if it's your shoes, you might not want to be doing the taste version. You could just do the smell. But if it's food, you could smell and taste. So give yourself a lot of time, really get your nose in there, and really compare the warm thing and the cool thing to each other. So as you do this, I think you're probably going to notice, first of all, you're going to notice a difference in the intensity of the sensation that you're getting from the warm object compared to the cool object. So let's talk about why that is. Think about what it means for the thing to be warm. You can picture this in your mind a little bit. At the molecular level, when we add heat to something, we're literally making the molecules move around more with that heat. And because of moving around more of those molecules are escaping into the air and they're moving around more. So, as you're comparing the cool object to the warm object, try to imagine how the warm thing actually has more molecules floating off of it. Now, if it's food that you've heated up in the microwave, you have probably some visual evidence of this because you might even see steam rising from it, which, of course, that's related to the water that's evaporating. But there's all kinds of other stuff that's also evaporating, not just water. And if you're tasting it, the heat also affects how well the molecules can spread around on your tongue, and also from your tongue and from your fork or whatever. It influences how many of those molecules are getting up into your nose. And one of the things we'll talk about in class is that the flavor experience depends on the taste and the smell. So that's the intensity part. You're going to have more of the molecules coming off of the warm thing, and so you probably will notice the intensity. But then secondly, I'd like for you to pay some special attention to the quality of the taste or smell sensations that you're getting from the warm and cool objects. So what I mean by that is it only just the intensity? Like, do you only notice that there's more of the particular smell? Or, alternately, do you also notice that the warm thing actually smells different in some way? Or it has more like elements to the smell? The reason why I'm suggesting this is that different substances, so if you think about in food, all the different ingredients in the food, for example, those don't all evaporate at the same rate. They come up into the air at differing rates depending on temperature. And so when you're heating something up, it's not just that you're getting more of everything in the same proportions. The mixture of molecules is actually going to change as well, because some of the things that were evaporating very little when it was cool maybe are evaporating a lot more when it's warm. And so you're going to get different proportions depending on what exactly those molecules are. So that could change the way that it smells or tastes, in addition to the intensity. So if you can, try to notice that and think about there's any ways that you can describe the change in the quality of the smell between the warm and the cool object. All right. I'm going to pause for a second in case you want to pause the video. All right, now that you've noticed all of these things, with your journal, go ahead and write down on your paper a little bit about what happened. Okay, so tell me about what the objects are that you smelled. What did you decide to use, or tasted? What did you decide to use for this? How did you do the warm versus cold and set it up for yourself? And then in your actual sensory comparison between these two things, how would you describe verbally the differences that you experienced in those chemical sensations? Finally, for a little bit of reflection, because reflection is an important goal here, talk a little bit about the chemical senses and how they feel different to you than your other senses. How do you feel like, or maybe especially how has your appreciation from doing something like this changed for your taste and smell compared to seeing and hearing? You know, you have an opportunity to think a little bit about how those are different. For myself, just give you a little bit of my own reflection. To me, I think the chemical senses are very immediate. It's very hard to not be present in the moment when you are dealing with your taste and smell. They really bring you into the moment, I think, in a way that vision and hearing don't always do. And I'm going to leave you with one additional thought. Since it's coming up on Mission Week here at Xavier, you probably all have heard of St. Ignatius, because he's a big guy in the history of the Jesuits, who are affiliated here with Xavier University. And what you might not know is that Ignatius was really big on contemplating different things and meditating a lot, but using the senses to do it. And so in all these different spiritual exercises that Ignatius gave the Jesuits to do, he encourages them to apply their senses and really think about these different spiritual things in terms of their sensory experience. And one thing that I kind of liked that he said is that what fills and satisfies the soul consists not in knowing much, but in our understanding the realities profoundly and in savoring them interiorly. And one thing that I really liked about the word savoring is that it's a very chemical sensation kind of word, right? How do we when we think about savoring, we really think about flavor, right? And the taste of a thing. And Ignatius encourages us to think about spiritual things not just as some kind of abstract ideal, but as something that you can really experience in a very immediate way, the same way that you would taste something, but you savor it interiorly when you're meditating or contemplating. So there's a thought that's related to our Jesuit mission for you to contemplate as you are going about your day, and I hope you enjoy the snowy environment here in 2026 with our big snowstorm. And I will see you in class.